We would do these demos, and frequently, especially in 2021 and 2022, there were no other companies at that point in time that were automating this. I think that back to like the stars aligning in 2023, ChatGPT comes out, this clinician burnout becomes a pain point that CEOs recognize as top priority. Like a lot of things come together. And so what we didn't realize is that we were pre-selling those prior years. Yeah. And so they called us back and said, no, now it's more than a party trick. Now that we want to test this out.
Welcome to How I Doctor, where we're bringing joy back to medicine. We may look a little bit different today because we are in person for today's guest, Dr. Shiv Rao, CEO and co-founder of Abridge. I've known Shiv for about 2 years now, and I think he's hard not to like. A humble cardiologist, check. A thoughtful, driven healthcare AI CEO, amazing. An electric music producer, DJ on the side, spectacular. Give me 14 more. You know, I think what's wild about Shiv is he has the title of like CEO of a $5 billion company, but that could be his headline, but it is nowhere in his personality or his bio. Shiv carries a kind of softness and kindness and curiosity that I really think is rare in healthcare leadership when the environment can be unforgiving. Shiv and Abridge have been at this far longer than most people realize, and I think you guys really make it look effortless. But I know firsthand the amount of work it is to create technology, to work with health systems, and to drive change. Today, we're going to talk about that journey, what drives him, how he thinks about being a physician founder and leader, and what he wants for the future of medicine as a patient, a dad, a son, and a builder. Dr. Shiv Rao, welcome to How I Doctor.
Thank you, Graham. Such a privilege to be here, and super kind words. And I'm such a fan of yours and Offcall, so it's really special to be here.
Well deserved. Shiv, there's been a lot of news about Abridge and Ambient scribes. How are you doing? How are you reacting to all the stuff in the past couple months?
Everything's great. I mean, from the standpoint of the company, it's been an incredible privilege these last 3-4 years. We've been able to scale across the country and create a lot of impact. We've been able to stay completely true to our mission, and we're just coming off our best quarter yet. Q3 was our best quarter, ever as a company. And so more than anything, just trying to meet the moment and continue to create that impact and also continue to innovate and build all the things that I think as clinicians we've been dreaming about forever.
What do you define the mission of Abridge as?
You know this as a multi-time entrepreneur and founder. Like the thesis, sometimes shifts for companies. You're pivoting all the time just to sort of react, to what's happening around you. We've been really lucky in that the strong idea that we've held tightly to all along is that healthcare is about people, and that we're not going to fully automate doctors, and that being able to force multiply them, being able to help them feel like superheroes, being able to, most importantly, help them be fully present with the patients in front of them, is worth fighting for, is worth building against. If the core unit for value exchange in healthcare is a clinician and a patient, then you think about what's the core and most upstream data set that you can build on top of to do all of those things. And to us, it's a conversation. Those dialogues that happen between the clinician and the patient are upstream of so many workflows, and it gives us access to a historically untapped data set that we believe we can build a platform on top of.
The reason I am kind of bullish on AI and kind of desperate for AI to help is I just see our patients getting sicker and more complex every single day. I don't see us going up on residency slots. I think, telemedicine made us more virtual and more flexible, but maybe our physical exam skills have gotten worse or more fragmented. You do a telephone visit and you email your doctor and then you maybe still see them in person. I want to help shape AI because I don't know what other choice we have. At some point I'm going to get sick with some disease that's going to need someone to be focused and paying attention and caring. And so, that's why I am happy to have people like you that are trying to tell this story, because I think we're going to have it. I don't see a future where we have still good medical care with the same number of humans, or honestly fewer humans. There are lots of doctors are leaving medicine, nurses, like all the professions, I think people are like not loving it as much as they used to.
The stats that are just programmed inside of me, whether or not they've shifted a little bit over the last few years or not, and that I feel like I recite like a robot everywhere I go, is that 2 out of 5 doctors don't want to be doctors in the next 2 to 3 years, and 30% of nurses or 27% of nurses don't want to be nurses in the next 12 months. And I think technology has already helped a lot over these last few years, and we've seen some studies suggest that burnout is coming down thanks in part to this technology, but there's so much work to do. And I think you're right. Like, we are at a really interesting historic moment.
It feels like a transition,
right?
Like that we're it feels like the humans still have like all the responsibility, and that feels like that's getting bigger and deeper and heavier, and that's driving people away. And it's also just getting harder. Like people are more meds, which then makes them have more side effects, which then like complicates everything. But it does feel like we're in the transition period where like we could, like in 5 years or 10 years, we could have we have the technology now that we can envision a totally different way that healthcare works, and actually works better, I think.
100%. I think that has to be the goal. I think we've stretched the rubber band, like the clinician rubber band, so far.
It's like getting those little micro tears.
Exactly. But even then, like, I mean, even when you sort of go up and you start to think about the system on the provider side, on the health system side, on the payer side, everybody's an extremist right now. Like, nobody is actually doing well. And as much as we want to sort of like make it about like this entity versus that entity, actually like everybody is struggling at this moment in time. I feel like those are the moments where you can figure out new models. I used to be a corporate VC for a health system, and we would invest in companies. And if a company came in one year and they had like a handful of big AMC logos or something like that, it would be champagne and wine and party and celebration, because it's so hard to get distribution, especially when you think about the health system end of the segment of healthcare. And this moment has been insane. I don't know if you saw that, like, it was Menlo who published a report in the last few weeks that suggests that healthcare is actually adopting AI faster than any other industry, and like against all other industries, like it's like something like 2.4x.
And I think like the health system's even more than the payers, which I
know
thought, no way. Like to me, I mean, I've never worked for a payer, but like if I was a payer, I'd be like, oh, I have this mountain of data. There's so much I can do with it. And I love my health systems, but I don't think of them necessarily as the fastest change agents. Healthcare has never been the fastest agent to adopt anything. You know,
it like happens in spots though. You know, like with my bias as a cardiologist, you go into the cath lab and you've got access to crazy stuff. And then you leave the cath lab, and then, you know, the farther away you go, you're getting exposed to lower and lower fidelity tools. And so like healthcare is so interesting, but it feels as if we're figuring out where the actual opportunities are, and we're figuring out where the actual value is getting created. And in some ways, I think we're starting there. And I think our category in Abridge is interesting in that it's lower stakes, but it's still at the heart of care delivery. It's still in this sacrosanct moment where people are most vulnerable. And so there's so much opportunity to create impact, you know, obviously with the right mission and the right North Star. But in general, it's like those lower stakes flows. But I think over these next couple of years, what will be wild is we're undoubtedly going to see like technologies and companies start to really push the envelope on use cases like clinical decision support. I'm curious what you're seeing, where you think this next year, where we're going to like push the envelope the most.
I'm interviewing on my own podcast. I think there's a great like first generation of AI, especially like generative AI. And then I think there's going to be a second, like, you know, there's some people talking about some AI bubble that's coming. I think what I'm seeing is there's going to be a second wave of, especially like for healthcare, like AI plus some guardrails and some supporting functions and tools that like help make the skyscraper be a little bit more stable, and will alleviate the health system's like anxieties or worries around error, accuracy, bias, things like that. So that then they're like, oh, you've actually like de-risked this problem. Oh, like it's actually easier for us to get on board with your concept now.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Shiv, I know you have, I think it feels to a lot of people like Abridge just kind of came out of nowhere 2 years ago. But like, when did you start Abridge? 2017? 18. Yeah, 18.
Yeah.
Like, did it feel like ChatGPT elevated you guys? Was that a turning point for you guys, or do you view it as like, oh yeah, no, we've just been chugging along and we were ready to start partnering around the same time that OpenAI released 3.5?
We started in March of 2018 is when we started the company, and it was just months before like November 2017 when Google had published their Attention is All You Need Transformers paper. Yeah. Now, my co-founder CTO, Zach, would say like the research community, the AI research community certainly knew full well about pre-trained models and transformers. But there's something about that moment, like where we could see the writing on the wall that this was coming, like things would change and that a new company had a right to win. Because if you're building in a native way with these new frameworks in mind, like fine-tuning or post-training, then regardless of whether you're starting with Bird and Firebird and Longformer and Pegasus and T5 like we did, or if you're starting with ChatGPT or Claude, it's just like a totally different set of primitives. And so we started with those models. We figured stuff out. It was certainly a lot harder then to get the first idea out. Like time to prototype was longer then than it is now. Yeah. It's like instantaneous idea to prototype, which is wild. Yeah. And still, like we sort of built a lot of that potential energy up.
Did you think, okay, yeah, in 2025 we'll be in? I mean, how many health systems are you guys in? Like.
Yeah, over 200, 200 of the largest. Yeah. So we're at scale.
I think the thing that I like about healthcare tech startups, I mean, maybe it's not even tech, but like working in healthcare is I think easier to have a value and a moral push that can drive you, even like during the tough financial times, the tough. Whatever times they are, because you are committed to like, hey, I have this thing that I think is going to help the world, help patients. Yeah. If I'm consulting cardiology and I wake you up at 3 a.m, I can still at least say,
you do the right thing.
Oh, I was going to say like, I'm trying to do the right thing for the patient.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah. I can, like, if you're yelling at me, my like evil trick to disarm you as an ER doctor is like, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to do the right thing by the patient. And I'm like being facetious, but I actually mean it. Like I am able to re-trigger the reason that this other person works in healthcare 100%. And not in
100%.
Sales or some other thing.
100%.
And so I think that same thing holds 100%. True in health tech or health startups as well. Is you can have this like foundational mission that can drive you and be like, well, hey, we might fail, but at least we're going to try to fix physical therapy.
I think startups, at least definitely in the earliest stages, but hopefully forever, companies are all about that intersection of agency and impact. That you can join this vehicle, be surrounded by awesome people who are like-minded in terms of like legacy they want to leave, impact they want to create, and that impact is worth it. And it's worth all the pain and suffering. I heard someone say this and it very much resonated with me, which is that every quarter you should feel as if you're going 0 to 1 again on something new, because like you can, at least we feel like we've got this opportunity in front of us to build the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so it always feels new. It always feels like we're taking new risk in some way.
It's, it's kind of like Eric Bricker says that physicians are autodidacts, like that we have to be to learn. Everything and keep learning, and there's always going to be some new drug or something like that. It does feel like an opportunity to always be like kind of challenging yourself and learning and seeing where you can grow as well.
Yeah, totally. On the physician point, it's interesting because I think like so many of the skills that we build up in our training, you can domain transfer over to business.
I think we can, but we are terrible at identifying that they're actually transferable.
I think we are. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit.
Shiv, I want to ask you a little bit more about like Abridge and your kind of take on clinical documentation.
Yeah.
I was just talking with a bunch of ER docs yesterday, and they said, the two things that worried them about just the category of ambient documentation. One, that they're all going to sound like the same doctor, and then, or that it's just going to like contribute to even more note bloat. And like, I'm just curious your take on those two concerns, and then maybe how Abridge is trying to address those.
There's that product, thought leader out there. Scott Belsky used to be the CPO of Adobe, but he has a saying that in the first, I don't know how many seconds, maybe a minute of experiencing a product, you should invoke in the user vanity, selfishness, and laziness. And I think in many ways, what this category and our mission to unburden clinicians from clerical work, it's all about, in some ways, laziness, maybe?
Yeah, sure. To some degree.
To some degree. Like, we don't want to do that, and we want to do the other thing that's higher up in the stack, which is creative care delivery. And maybe selfishness relates to how we can help them deliver better care and get compensated for the completeness of care that they've delivered. Like, there's other aspects of that too. But the vanity piece, I underestimated. I underestimated that for a while until like the last year, where it became very clear that we needed to build the infrastructure to personalize, to actually ensure that this output actually represents, the person.
Oh yeah.
And I was talking to a doctor recently. It was a primary care doctor, and I was like overhearing their conversation, talking to a rheumatologist, or maybe it was the other way around. And they were like, do you recognize me anymore from my notes? Because apparently their notes pre-AI had such a look. And then on the flip, there are the clinicians out there, and I was probably one of them at some point in my career, who rewrite the entire medical record in the note. So I think that the point of view that we've got is that there's a floor. There's a floor that we have to hit that checks off all the important boxes for this being not just clinically useful, most importantly, but also compliant, checking off all the boxes that help keep the lights on in the health system. And there's so much to compliance. There's so much to revenue cycle.
I thought you were going to say there's so much to comply with, which is
there is.
It is. I know.
And I think the ambition should be to use this technology and scale and leverage to actually change the game over time. But you have to wedge into the way the game is played right now on the field. And I used to be on a clinical documentation improvement team at UPMC, and we would go from department to department doing lunch and learns with pizza and PowerPoints, trying to teach doctors about meet criteria, new MDM, and you don't need to review systems.
Urology. Yeah. I am Shiv Rao. I'm from the clinical documentation team.
Exactly.
Thank you for your time.
Exactly. Yeah. And like inpatient versus obs status. What does it mean? Why do you need to document in the first 48 or 72 hours if you saw a patient? And also, you keep saying suspected of, like, stop doing that. Yeah. Some of that you could think is coming from clinicians saying this is more useful, but so much of this stuff is actually about billing and revenue cycle.
That was actually a perfect lead up to my next question is like, how do you, like, is there enough bandwidth in Abridge that you feel like you can take all the compliance stuff and say, hey, health system customer, you're paying us. We'll take care of all this for you, but like I also have enough bandwidth in my company to have the product people and the UX people focus on kind of the other customer, which is the clinician.
Yeah, 100%. There's bandwidth. And that's kind of the fun of it. That's the challenge of it this is about helping clinicians. This is about the end users. Yeah. This is about helping improve the patient experience. And what if we took models to revenue cycle school, to risk adjustment school, to inpatient versus obs school? What if over time they're even going to medical school to help the clinicians feel like they've got these superpowers that they have access to, even in the moment, even in that sacrosanct moment, that can help them deliver the best possible care? That's really the idea. And so the idea isn't that, I think when it's framed, like the way things are framed makes all the difference in the way you end up building. There's a Joseph Campbell quote that if you change the metaphor, you change the tool. And for us, especially in the early days, maybe we say this less, like our earliest metaphor was stories, like that healthcare is all about stories. Yeah. And that these conversations, patients are telling stories of their families, they're telling stories of their symptoms and their medications, and doctors were writing histories and physicals. Yep. That's the OG, like archetypal note that we write. And if it's about stories, then you end up building a roadmap that looks very different than a company who said that the initial metaphor was dollars or was fee for service or like sepsis
compliance.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. But I think if you start with the right metaphors and you're building with the right North Star, then you can find a way to create a coherent product at the end of the day that still, has its heart and soul. That's still like creating the impact that it needs to create while balancing the realities of healthcare business models.
Do you think the reason that's available now is like the models are so good, or the cost is so low to implement these models that there's just like there is margin there that you can like do a ton of model deployment and still, you're kind of serving two different needs. One's compliance, arguably, and documentation, and one's like make the experience better for the doctor.
I mean, this is the moment where we can do more. We can have that abundant mindset of not thinking that we have to sacrifice one thing for the other. Like we can do both. And I think for any startup, especially in healthcare, though, it's so important to know who you're serving, to be very, very crisp on that like end user, that persona, but also like that buyer, that administrator, that decision maker, that executive. And for us,
who would you say Abridge is serving?
So we're serving clinicians. That's the first principle. But then beyond that first principle, we think about, well, who are these concentric circles of decision makers? And there's CMIOs, there's CIOs, and there's CFOs. And so the challenge and that we embrace is that we have to thread the needle through all of them.
Yeah, there's often like overlapping Venn diagrams between those groups, but they're not.
It's very rare. It's very rare, right? But this is what's really exciting about this moment, and why I think we've been so privileged to have the success that we've had is that all of them are on board. Like all of them see the potential. All of them recognize that it's a win-win-win. All of them also acknowledge that it's high time that we optimize for end user experiences.
And I bet you in 2018 they wouldn't have even taken your call or agreed that it's like time, or that maybe two of the three would agree. And we know in health systems you need all three.
Yeah, we were a party trick in 2021 and 2022. We were like health systems would call us because they needed some entertainment. And wanted to jump on a Zoom call and check out.
You do the magic.
Exactly. And we would do these demos. And frequently, especially in 2021 and 2022, there were no other companies at that point in time that were automating this. I think that back to like the stars aligning in 2023, ChatGPT comes out. This clinician burnout becomes a pain point that CEOs recognize as top priority. Like a lot of things come together. And so what we didn't realize is that we were pre-selling those for prior years. And so they called us back and said, no, now it's more than a party trick. Now that we want to test this out.
Well, when it was a party trick, was that just like, you were like, ta-da, it does this. And they were like, oh, that's cool. But they didn't understand the point of it, like that would have downstream effects on maybe burnout or less pajama time or the things that because they didn't care or they didn't make those connections yet, or they just weren't aware of it. What do you think? Like,
I mean, I've been on the other side. I've been an exexecutive at a health system. I think sometimes there's just so much inertia in healthcare, and
there's so many problems to solve. That
there's so many problems to solve.
If it's not on your top 5, it's like, I don't think I can deal with this year.
Yeah, and there's risk aversion.
Yeah, sure.
Payers have even more of that. So the barriers to entry they feel as high as the barriers to exit, and like the game is like getting in, because once you get in, you almost it used to be that you couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I think that the playing field is more level than ever before, and we're gonna everyone has to compete, which is awesome. That's what we need in healthcare, is more competition. But getting in is the hard part. But in terms of market segmentation, a large health system and their end users look totally different. Like you're a very different end user clinician at Kaiser compared to a direct primary care doctor down the street taking cash payment out of pocket off the insurance grid. You'd build a totally different product for them. You'd also think about defensibility differently. You'd think about differentiation very significant, like differently. You'd think, and business model would be profoundly different for both those sides. And commoditization is a real thing down market, because the bar for good enough is actually fairly low. So if you're on the outside,
that's how good these models are.
Totally.
And the technology. It's this is pretty good.
Yeah, you can like zero shot a model and you can get something that works. But then when you swim upstream to the large systems, now all of a sudden you need something that can scale across all the clinicians and all the care settings and all the languages
and all the other pieces.
And the integrations. But then you also have dreamers, that you get to partner with, and they've got roadmaps in mind and you need to build. And then you're thinking about revenue cycle and compliance. You're thinking about, oh wait, these notes are actually like super, super high stakes artifacts. Because as we say, like we're not compensated as clinicians for the care that we deliver in this country. We're compensated for the care that we document that we deliver. So these are bills. So you kind of meet the moment where it is, but I think what you believe too is like the responsibility of this moment is that we use this privileged position, and all the companies out there, you do the same thing, which is like to change the game.
Like, what do you think the secret is to, like, what's the Abridge secret sauce?
I think that ultimately it's all about people, and like every single person matters. Every single person makes a difference. And every single person has a part to play in being able to position ourselves as an enterprise grade, partner. And ultimately, I think in healthcare, especially, the actual currency that matters and that differentiates is trust. And trust is one of those things, as they say, you earn it in droplets and you lose it in buckets. And so, you just need to, the same way we earn trust with our longstanding patients in clinic, you do it over time, and you do it by showing up and, by I think, living your values, in this case as a company. And one of our values is that we want to be able to say with a straight face that we have this for clinicians by clinicians ethos, that like you at Offcall, that this is ultimately about the people. And it's about improving experiences. And, we start from there. And how that manifests in the company is that we might have clinicians in sales. We might have clinicians on like the AI team actually doing machine learning models. And we might have folks on partner success and on implementations. And then we also have incredible people in those orgs as well who recognize that it's all about trust and sort of, embrace this responsibility that we've got. Like we have someone leading partner success. Her name's Reba Shank, and she used to be a social worker. But she brings that ethos.
God bless you, Reba.
Hardest job.
Seriously. Yeah. And like the most important job, especially in emergency medicine.
But you think about,
could not do anything without
but you think about, who do you want leading relationships with your health systems? Who do you want, fielding that hard phone call when you
want my social worker Melinda from the ED.
When your cloud partner,
when
your cloud partner just went down for the 10th time in 3 months, who do you want to go like be your face, and to bring the blood pressure down, and to take it on the chin, but also convey like confidence and certainty that we've got a plan. You want someone like that. And I think that we've been really lucky to be able to attract a lot of people like that, in a lot of like really, really important positions, and they've attracted others.
Do you think that like the thing that I always tell people is AI is always going to be biased because humans are biased, and AI is going to be trained on human data? Like, do you think there's a world where the AI is able to detect bias and be less biased, more objective, like truly better than humans at being objective?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. It seems plausible. The answer to everything is like yes, kind of like on what's AI going to be capable of. It's just on what time horizon, and it feels like time machines are broken, so we have no idea. What's going to happen in like 6 months, much less like, 6 years.
Yeah, it feels like, especially in this industry, it's every week. Like if you go on vacation for a week, the world has changed by the time you're back with some new thing that this company's now has the lead model because it's like 0.3 points better on a benchmark or something.
I was at GTC, NVIDIA's conference yesterday in DC, and got to see Jensen, which is kind of amazing. He's an investor, and NVIDIA is an investor, but kind of awesome that, and humbling that he knows who we are. but he's like up on stage too and talking about what's happening, what's coming. It's just like so wild this moment. Every couple of weeks, the ground is shifting completely.
Yeah.
And part of what you need people, like the right people, like you need not just clinicians, not just like those incredible partner success folks. You also need PhDs and postdocs and professors. You need like to stay on. Yeah, exactly.
Of new ideas and new crazy thing. Yeah.
Totally. So I think part of our experiment at Abridge is alchemy. Like how can we put together really weird combinations of people, like really weird for any industry, much less healthcare, where you've got folks coming in from consumer tech, coming in, like practicing doctors, where you've got super academic, like researchers. You've got public policy people. Like you put all those people and like salespeople, you put all those people in a room, you shake it up, and you make sure that they're all aligned with the mission. Like what do you end up getting?
Yeah, I'm curious if I want to ask you about like how you and Abridge like reacted to the Epic AI scribe stuff. I kind of got the sense that Epic was like, oh, Epic's becoming like a more open company. Oh, they're like doing this partner thing with Abridge. I was like, oh, wow, this is a new kind of Epic. And then, we started to hear rumors, and then at UGM, kind of Judy quietly said like, oh yeah, we're doing an AI scribe with Microsoft, and then moved on to the next topic. Like, how did that make you guys feel? How did you take that news?
To be honest with you, there, like LinkedIn, there were so many crazy posts. There were so many crazy posts that I felt didn't really understand. Everything's different when you're on the inside, maybe.
Oh, for sure.
And,
yeah.
And so many folks on the outside, like, were creating narratives that I don't think really existed.
Like in terms of like friction between the two companies. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Like we almost categorically don't talk about this stuff. So maybe violating some of our own like kind of principles on it. But it's been an absolute like honor for us to have built the kinds of relationships we've built with people there, to be able to work closely with them. When we were co-developing in that workshop program, to be able to discover and like figure out what could this look and feel like inside the workflow, and then work together to go put it out there and like scale and learn together. And I think at some point in time things got mature. And the construct of that program was to get things to a level of maturity, but not to be partisan, to say like it's only you, but then to figure out how to open this thing up again. To your point around being open. And so when we're live across over 200 of the largest health systems in the country, and we're doing millions of encounters every week, it's mature. I think like the first inning of this moment of AI in care delivery is well established, and this technology is now becoming a part of the infrastructure. And so that they would deem it to be mature, and decide that it's time to like figure out what's next and sort of open things up as they have, is not a surprise at all for us.
It's an interesting angle that like Epic's going to do their own version of things once the technology or whatever has kind of matured.
There was like speaking of LinkedIn, there was another LinkedIn post the other day that talked about like AI scribe companies. It's interesting. I don't think I've ever used that term ever.
Yeah.
What
do you guys call it? Ambient?
We don't
Abridge?
Like if we go by a category, we'll go by ambient.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll say that's where the wedge is.
Yeah.
But when your value proposition is hitting so many different parts of an org, it's really hard to get pigeonholed or pinpointed. But when it benefits you that health systems are seeing ambient as a box they want to check off, you obviously want to embrace it. Sure. But we've never used the term AI scribe, and we always, like, when 2023, we would get really kind of disgruntled when folks would call us an AI scribe company, because we were like, no, we don't do that. Yeah, it's so narrow, and I think it doesn't do justice to what happens behind the scenes.
Do you have a category? Are you making your own category? What would you call Abridge? Like, what's the future of, you guys are doing AI scribes right now, but like, what's the immature stuff that you are going to do next?
Yeah, I think for us, it's the thesis that we're creating a platform on top of the conversation, on top of the encounter. But it's like the conversation is the thesis.
Yeah.
And so it's conversation to clinical note, it's conversation to code, conversation to claim, conversation to care management, conversation to clinical trial recruitment, conversation to clinical decision support. We announced a partnership with, UpToDate, and we're building a bunch of stuff there that's all in the moment, in the workflow, in the conversation, but also leveraging data about the patient from other sources. And so
at the point of care,
at the point of conversation.
Yeah.
And so, it's for us, it's about the value that we're delivering as opposed to like the wedge that allows us to deliver that value.
The other thing that this reminds me of, if we're talking about conversation, like, I mostly have like 2 conversations per patient. I have one with the patient, and then I have one arguably with like probably some consultant.
Yeah.
It's the hospitalist maybe, or maybe it's you, the cardiologist.
Yeah.
Like, is there a separate or additional conversation that Abridge does that is documenting the cardiologist recommendations, or our conversation, or the orders, or I'm talking to the nurse or the social worker, or that's the other piece of the talking work that I do. I'm talking with other people on kind of the backside of the house almost.
Yeah, we want to get to all those interactions. The one that we're working on right now in parallel is nursing. And so you think about the inpatient space. My father-in-law was recently in the hospital. He broke his hip. He was in the hospital. My wife and I got to spend some time there in New York in the hospital. And it's always wild to be on the patient side of the room, even if you're a doctor and you're like rounding. Yeah. It's such a different experience.
Bizarre. Yeah.
So many people coming in and out. And asking the same questions over and over and over. It's like Groundhog Day, and you just want to record your answers. And then when they come back in, you want to play it for them. And what's wild about that from like the standpoint of experiences, but also outcomes, is that we don't coordinate, these conversations well. I go in as a doctor and I'm asking the patient about nausea when they spent like 30 minutes telling the nurse on my team about nausea that morning.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, and then they spent 30 minutes throwing up right before you walked in the room or something like that. Like,
true.
True.
Yeah. And so
you don't need to ask the patient about that.
Yeah.
You have documentation in the trash can.
Yeah. 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 Well, what happens when you go in and you feel like you have the actual story, that it's been like fed to you, that like everybody has access to this like hive mind about the patient. So 100%. I think like what you're describing is what we want to work towards.
What other avenues do you think Abridge goes in like 5-10 years?
I think that there is an AI layer.
Yeah.
And I think what we don't do as a company is we don't want to be a company that opens up a trench coat and sells you a urinary catheter tomorrow, like a big data analytics platform.
You heard it here first, folks. Yeah. Breaking. We've got the clip for social.
Remember like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, especially, maybe longer. When I was a VC, an investor, you would go to these company websites and you hit solutions, and then all of a sudden, it's just like you unfurl this insane menu of options.
It's like Spaceballs the T-shirt, Spaceballs the flamethrower. It's like
But just absolutely wild, and there isn't like a coherent thread. There isn't like a mission statement that like pulls it all together.
Right. Yeah.
And so
or it's like such a vague mission statement that you actually can't decide. Like,
oh my
God,
we
help humans.
So many of those.
Urinary catheters help.
So
humans.
many of those. So many of those. Exactly. So many of those.
Shiv, I think we've talked a lot about physicians being, particularly superheroes. Like the work that we do is really quite incredible. But there are other physicians that are, kind of scared of AI taking their job or making their job more robotic and less enjoyable.
Yeah.
What do you think that physicians can do to be a part of this movement, to like have their voice heard about how they want AI to help them and, have it be built for them, not at them or to them?
I think that there are so many ways to like be a part of this movement. And the opportunity is to bend the trajectory for it, make sure that we use it for good, make sure that we exert our tastes and our judgment on this technology, and that these tools end up doing good by not just them, clinicians, but also by our patients. So that can take the shape of being a consultant, being a founder, being an advisor, giving feedback to companies, all of it matters. But I think what matters is that we don't shy away from it. I think that we run into it.
Yeah, I think, like it's so easy to just like try it and get us, physicians are good at learning stuff. Like you will quickly learn what it's good at, how you could use it, and where it maybe won't work so well.
Yeah.
And then share that knowledge with other people, whether it's from creating a company, giving feedback to, Abridge or any other company to say like, hey, I'm a orthopedist. This is what I want this technology to do to help me.
Yeah, exactly.
Shiv, let me, in our last few minutes, let me just ask you a few questions about like the future, because I think, obviously you're the CEO of Abridge, but you're also just like deeply connected to other smart thinkers and people that think about healthcare in interesting ways. Like 5 to 10 years from now, not even talking about Abridge, but just like the healthcare system generally, what do you want that to look like? Or what do you hope that looks like?
I think we need outcomes-based pricing. I think we need to incent everyone, to actually prevent. We don't have the models to actually incent or create those industries that want to exist right now.
And it's truly industries. Like there would be an entire industry for all of that.
Yeah. And a part of why AI creates that moment is that, like look at us, we're in the conversation. What can we do? Like when you're that far upstream, you can start to bend the trajectory for what happens next. I'm obviously on some level very AI pilled. On another level, very idealistic. Yeah. And our company is very mission driven. We talk about values in a company. Like one of our values is that you have to taste good things to have good taste. There's this guy, Ben Kuhn, and maybe you've seen this. He's at Anthropic, and he wrote this blog earlier in the year. But one of the things he talks about is that there's 2 attributes that are most important in this AI moment in people. Maybe he talks about 3, but I think that like the 2 that I'll focus on, agency and taste. I think that's what's actually going to differentiate people. Like it's like people and their values and how that translates into tastes and sensibilities. But just to get back to your question, I think that what AI can enable us to do in healthcare is live our values. And going back to where we started with moral injury and burnout, it's like we're not living our values. And that's why we feel burned out. We're doing something where we feel like we're stripped of the agency to do the thing that we want to do.
That feels right.
Yeah. And I think that if AI can allow humans and all of us in healthcare to do the thing that feels right, like what does that look like? What does that world end up looking like?
Well, I think because it allows so much customization, right? Like the person that wants their AI to deliver all their healthcare, because their value is they want either speed or they prefer that, they get that. The person that wants to talk for 30 minutes with a human, maybe they get that too.
Yeah.
Shiv, I'm curious, like you've been through lots of ups and downs. It's been 7 years at Abridge now.
Yeah.
What drives you and gets you up every morning? Is it excitement? Is it passion? Is it making things better? Like what's deeply driving you?
Yeah. I have twin 9-year-old boys, and one of them has this drawing in that he made for me when he was like 7, and it's like 7-year-old handwriting. And
like my handwriting, essentially. Yeah.
And it says, I hope you get done with your meeting soon.
Like right to the heart.
And my wife just texted me as I was walking in to do this podcast, like, hey, you're going to be gone for 14 days in the next 3 weeks or something like that. Yeah. We need to talk. I'm not a victim. Like, this is an incredible privilege. I signed up for this and I want this, and I'm so lucky for it. And I'm so lucky to be surrounded by the people inside the company, but also so lucky to have my family who also believe that it's worth it. I think it's worth it. And I think that this is like one of those moments where I feel one of my worst fears is that we somehow don't take full advantage of this opportunity to change what healthcare looks and feels like.
Well, and I think if we don't do it, if clinicians don't do it, someone else is going to do it for us. And they will not know what it's like to make a good diagnosis, miss a diagnosis, help
Totally.
somebody, harm somebody.
Totally.
Because they won't really care about that. And so,
because they don't taste, and taste is like judgment, right?
sure, yeah.
When I was in college, so this is I wasn't a DJ really. I was like I made electronic music. And it was good. It was super fun, and I was programming synthesizers in School of Computer Science and School of Fine Arts, and studying a lot of stuff I'm not doing now. I was like a history major. But this architecture professor came to Carnegie Mellon and told this story about this professor, William McDonough. And this was when the D School at Stanford was pretty young. He was talking about how we're all designers of our world. And he told the story about an ophthalmologist who would sit down in India and he would bring patients at 12, 3, 6, and 9. And he'd be on this revolving platform. He'd do a cataract at 12, say spin, cataract at 3, spin, cataract at 6. And he's just spinning all day long doing these 5 to 10 minute procedures, whatever.
Yeah.
And by the time I had heard the lecture, he had given eyesight to over 1 million people. His daughter had given eyesight to over 400,000 people as an ophthalmologist or not, I'm not sure. But it pay as you can, free, incredible impact at scale.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, I think that the PCP, the DPC clinician who sees 20 patients a week is creating just as profound of an impact as someone who's creating impact at scale, but different strokes,
Yeah.
And what I knew at that moment, and this is very cheesy, but I knew at that moment was that I wanted to be a part of a team that could create that kind of impact. And I think when you know what you're working backwards from, and if what you're working backwards from is scale, then there are only so many ways to get scale.
Yeah, and you can start to see the steps backwards.
Yeah. You can, post on LinkedIn like you.
The coolest of all the social media networks. Yeah.
You can also create a tech company.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like
both.
Yeah, all right. Like you. But yeah, I think that's the moment.
Well, Shiv, it's been an honor to have you. Thank you for our very first in-person live Offcall podcast.
Thank you, Graham. Such a fan of Offcall, such a fan of you. So thank you for this opportunity.